Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Kent Holste podcast. I'm so glad that you decided to click this link and join in the conversation, as today we're going to be doing an interview with a gentleman I talked about on one of my podcasts. It was right at the end, and it was about life lessons. And I felt like this gentleman's lesson that he was given was pretty powerful. And right now we're going to play that clip really quick, and we'll talk to this very cool gentleman.
This is why you're thinking about getting a divorce? Because you're not in love anymore? Let me give you some advice, okay? I've been living with my wife since 1999. We have been married pretty much the whole time, okay? And the thing is, there are going to be times, there have been many times that me and her have felt like this. But that's when your backbone comes in. That's when your commitment comes in. That's when your vow that you took, that you said you were going to stick with each other through thick and thin, comes in. Because guess what? No one's perfect. Guess what? You go out and try to meet somebody else, might not be what you expect. And to quit your marriage over this right here is a huge mistake. Because guess what? We toughed it through those times when we didn't love each other. The love comes back. It's even stronger than it was before, and better than it was before. So stick to your guns. Don't be a quitter.
All right, so obviously that was a very powerful message. And joining me is Sean Knauff. He is a social media guy, kind of like me, kind of went on Instagram here and found him. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Sean.
I'm actually not a social media guy. I'm a roofer. I own a roofing company, and I got TikTok. That's what I'm claimed to fame is on TikTok. I got TikTok to watch my daughter. I have a teenage daughter, and she had it, and I'm like, I want to see what this is about. But anyway, I started posting, and I don't know. Here we are. But
well, I gotta tell you, your videos that you do are pretty inspiring. I'm a man of faith, and by looking at your posts, you are as well. Now talk about this video we just saw. Where did this all stem from?
Well, in the video I had mentioned that my wife and I had been through this process of where we had like a dry spell. We were still young. We had a daughter. Our daughter was still young, and we just kind of like went through this time of a lot of bickering and arguing and fighting and stuff. And we were about to call it quits, I guess, because we both were like, well, she's like, I'm not feeling you. And I'm like, well, same here. But we didn't quit our marriage because I got really frustrated because, see, like, I come from a divorced family, and my mom and dad were divorced when I was real young, and I have a stepdad. My mom remarried then. My stepdad and my mom have two boys. When they were teenagers, they got divorced, and they went through all that. Pretty much every member of my family, aunts and uncles, wives, have been through divorce. And I see things, and I just kind of like when I met my wife, I never wanted to go through a divorce. When she told me she was pregnant, like, I was all in to make my family work. And when we went through that dry spell of like, well, I don't think I love you anymore, like, I kind of felt the same way, but I fought for my marriage. I told my wife, like, well, if we just quit, our vows don't mean anything. And so I really remember a conversation we had, and it was me probably screaming about our vows, and about how, we can't just do this. And my wife's point of view was like, we can't be arguing in front of our daughter, and it's not good for her to be in like a toxic environment and everything like that. And this happened a couple of times, and we kind of just toughed it out, too lazy to really do anything maybe. But we were attending church, and we got a new pastor at our church who was a psychologist and stuff. And our new pastor was like, look, if you guys aren't slapping each other around and you're just arguing and maybe you're yelling a little bit, he's like, you know, if it bothers you that the kids around, don't do it. And so we kind of like were like, okay. And I guess we were both looking for an excuse to figure out who's right and who's wrong or whatever. But it just never, our pastor just stuck to his guns and was like, don't fight them. And, it took a lot of time for us to mellow out because we went through a season of maybe possibly years where it was toxic almost all the time. And it's not like she was bad and I was good or anything like that. We both just had an attitude towards each other. There was a lot of resentment in the house, but we love our kids and we wanted to work it out because when things were good, they were really good. And when things were bad, they were just really, really bad. And it took a lot of praying, a lot of, just toughing it out and just, gritting your teeth type of stuff until we started to realize like, we were starting to mature and all of that fighting and stuff just sort of like slowly dissipated. But it was very, it was rough, bro.
I bet. I'm a product of 3 divorces myself, and we were talking about this. One of my marriages is where it came to that, where the I don't love you anymore came into it, and it's tough. It's difficult, especially we have a kid together, and either you stick it out and you try to make it work, or you're too hard-headed and you don't want to work it out because you feel like you don't need to help, or you don't need someone stepping in to kind of tell you that you are wrong. And that's kind of my fault, and that's what I did. And now that I'm a little bit older, because that's when I was in my early 20s. Now I'm 36, and it's just like, relationships should be about each other. And my first marriage, I'll never forget it. My birth mom's husband at the time said, no, I want to give you some advice before you get married. Either you want to be right or you want to be happy. and I didn't live up to that yet, but it's those little things that, I think that as far as relationships go today, a lot of people don't take it seriously like our parents did or other generations, because my grandparents were married close to 60 plus years, I think. And you don't see that type of dedication for each other anymore in relationships. It's about the eyes and all that stuff, But what is your advice as far as what did you guys do at that point then to stay firm in your relationship?
Well, brother, let me tell you one thing. I'm real sorry that happened to you because it gets emotions going to me because I went through that and it was like, bro, it was like that close. The one time my wife had an escape plan, she had an apartment, she was ready to move out, and that just had me shook. And I remember that time. It sucked, man. I really can't say what we did. Like I'm a man of faith myself. I prayed for my marriage a lot. And oh, sorry. I prayed for my marriage. I had a lot of conversations with my wife, and there was just a time where we had to just mature and just ride it out, and I give it to my wife, man. She's pretty tough. And it wasn't until like after the smoke cleared that I started to realize the stuff that I did back then that was wrong. And my attitude, I guess, was just not right. And hindsight being 2020, I realized that I was just like caught up in my own life. Like I always thought that like, I grew up poor. I grew up with nothing. When I met my wife, I had nothing. I had a bag. And, I had drug issues, mental health issues, and it was bad. and I don't even know why she liked me. But the thing is that I realized that I was bringing. She comes from like a perfect family. Like her parents have been together since high school. Never really fought in front of her. I'm like completely the opposite. My dad's been through multiple crazy drug addict, alcoholic girlfriends, like, you know what I'm saying. And my
Mm-hmm.
mom, same sort of stuff. My mom was a lot more stable than my dad, but it was just craziness my whole life. And when I met my wife, it was like the first time ever I was like stable. And when we had our first apartment, um, pretty sure that was the first place I ever lived anywhere for a whole year, my whole life. And I realized that I was coming into this relationship and I thought I was taking it seriously. I wanted to get married. I asked my wife to marry me pretty early in the relationship, and we got married. We had our daughter after we were married. But man, we had issues like crazy because I just had a lot of baggage and I didn't realize it at the time. I just fight tooth and nail for everything I get. And I guess like, I had been diagnosed with bipolar 1. It's a very severe mental illness. And once a year I would just completely go totally psychotic, like not be able to sleep and end up in the hospital. And my wife put up with that at least 10 times, and any other woman would have left. And I would still give her crap about her attitude sometimes, the way she talks to me. I don't like it. But I didn't realize all of the hard work that she actually like did for me because she really cared about me. And I'm lucky that she did all that. But I'm just saying, like, in the midst of all this stuff going on, I have just times where I pray real hard and I feel like God changed me a little bit, and I just make all these changes over my life. Like my life is I'm a totally different person than I was 20 years ago when I
Mm-hmm.
met her. And, some of those times I feel like God used her to really push me to change. And there's been times when I almost lost her because of it. But,
Mm-hmm.
looking back at it all, um, you know, it's fortunate that we're together, number one. But looking back at it all, I realized that God used her in my life to transform who I am to who I am today. And it's still happening. And I'm actually on this other podcast called Father's Fire, and we talk about this kind of stuff. And they talk about how, like, our wives are there to make us better people, whether we realize it or not. They don't even know they're doing it usually. But the thing is, I can say that between my prayer life, between whatever God performed some kind of miracle in my life, I don't know. Um, stopped with the crazy drug use and heavy alcohol use, stopped with all the like crazy friends coming around, and just slowly, like I started a martial arts class when I was 20 years old, stuck with that. I got about 20 years of martial arts training, and I kind of just had God use the martial arts to get my mind and give me some stability. You got to understand, like, I had a lot of mental problems, very insecure. I would go to school and just not fit in with nobody. First time I went to church, I thought I was going to catch on fire. Like, I was like, what? I was terrified to go to church. I'm terrified to be around the people. And just from like everything that God has put in my life with my wife, with me doing that and getting my mind focused on better things, my life is kind of transformed. And through that transformation, my marriage got better, and my kids are kind of stable. Like, one thing for me, like I said, is I moved all the time when I was a kid. I moved every few months. My dad would go to jail. I go to my mom's. My mom would break up with somebody. I go to my grandma. My grandma would get sick of me. I go to my aunts, and it was like that my whole childhood. And the thing is, you know, I guess when I met my wife, I never expected her to stick around, and she did. And just all the love that she's shown me and all the things that God has done for me in my life has just kind of brought things to a place where I've gone from the craziest dude around who's been hospitalized, crazy lifestyle, to a person that people come to for like a sound mind. It's like a bona fide miracle. So like I don't know, man. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. And I can totally relate with you because, I haven't been the easiest of person either. I have ADHD, depression, um, just various different things. And then my last marriage, it was very, uh, very, very unhealthy. Um, we were kind of like oil and water. We just didn't mix. And, she was very mentally and uh, physically abusive sometimes. And because of it, I have PTSD, nightmares. So I can relate with you as far as that stuff goes in life. But, having someone in your life that's there, that is willing to be there for you and kind of help guide you in some ways, that's a blessing in disguise, and you don't always see it. Just like you said, we get blinded as men sometimes to the good things that we have, and we just don't realize it until it's already gone, or it's too much to fix. And that's what you were talking about on your video, and you know what, it comes to the question, when does it become an excuse? you know um, love is something that should be dealt with in a way that if you say it, then act it. And love just doesn't stop. And if you say that you love each other, that you just have to search for it. And the biggest thing that I can agree with you is adapting. Relationships don't last more than 3 to 4 years on average now, and that's sad, and that's because no one wants to adapt. Everybody gets used to that comfort stage where it's like, okay, this is great. And then once they realize that the honeymoon stage, quote unquote, is done, they just don't know where to go from there. And the question is how can you fix that, and without feeling like you're being attacked and making the other feel like they're being attacked? Because for me, when I was going through my problems, I felt like I was getting attacked, but in reality I needed that. They were trying to say, hey, this is what's going on, but I was being too stubborn. And so the biggest thing is your video just nails it. If you truly love each other, work at it. Otherwise you have no point in even being in a relationship, because you're not ready, and you're just going to hurt somebody else beside yourself. So
Amen. Amen, dude. I mean, people don't realize the value of commitment. I mean, they really don't, because we, like you said, we get into a relationship, butterfly time is over, and then people, they hit this super high when they get married, and
yeah,
it's like post-marital bliss, and it's like because like for me, it's like I go into work mode. Like I own a business, so I go to work, and I think about work. I'm like, work. I want to make money. I want to provide for my family. My heart is like, I'm gonna make as much money as I can. I'm gonna pass it over and be like, look what I've. It's like back in the day when a caveman like brings home a big bear, like look what I got. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I think a lot of guys think like that. And what happens is that though is we get caught up in our job, and when there's friction at home, we just work more. You know what I mean? We don't realize like that this is taking away from this, because we're providers. We're just naturally providers. And for me, I just work. My wife would be upset. I'd work more, and I bring home money. I bought my wife a car one time. I paid cash for a convertible BMW one time, and I just brought home this car like as a surprise. And I'm like, check this out. And she was like, what? Like, but like, that lasted. She was happy for like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Well, I'm just saying, like, girls don't think like us. And so girls really need our time. They really need to pay attention to. And when you don't pay attention and you don't give up when you put more attention on your work than your family, like you can do it a little bit, but when you go 6 months, years doing that, women feel neglected, and then they start.
Yeah.
There's a lot of temptations out there. You know what I mean? And it's like, I know from, my mom's relationships in the past, how angry she would get at her, new husband and her boyfriends and stuff for, basically just working all the time, going hunting and doing whatever they want to do. And she would just feel like a prisoner in the house. She had 4 boys, and my mom would just pull her hair out in frustration and anger because my stepdad, super nice guy, but never home. And that just drove her up the wall. And it caused every single problem in their marriage, probably. And so, we watched them have a happy marriage at first, and then things just totally disintegrated, got real ugly there towards the end. And, people joke around about divorce, like, oh, yeah, go ahead and get a divorce. I did. It's all good. Well, it's a lot more complicated than that, because I don't know about for you, but for my stepmom or my stepdad and my mom, when they got a divorce, insane family problems because my stepdad owned a business. But the grandparents are involved, all this hatred and resentment now, and the kids are caught up in the middle of all that crap. And like for us, like for my younger brothers, I felt bad for them because my younger brothers love their granddad, they love their mom, they love their dad, and then they're caught in the middle where they have to make decisions on choices because everybody's trying to justify their position. And at first they don't do it with the kids, but sometimes they do. They get mad about something, they justify what they're thinking, and then the kids, it's just crazy, man. So I'm my TikTok channel, a lot of my motivation is I don't want kids to have to go through the stuff that I went through, that my brothers and cousins had to go through with that kind of stuff. Because marriage is awesome when it's awesome, and it sucks when it sucks, but it's like a marathon. You got to commit to it and just freaking keep on trucking. And when you get to the end, it's going to be good. So
heck yeah, there you go. No, I completely agree with that, because once you figure out the do's and the don'ts, and the biggest thing for me was one of my biggest downfalls in one of my marriages was I wanted to make sure we had it all. The nice TVs, the nice couch, the whatever. And my focus was in the wrong place. I didn't need all that stuff. The best part of me was the person who married me. And I didn't see it that way. I was like, oh, I got to have this to make her happy, or I got to give her this to make her happy. It's not about what you give as far as possessions. It's your heart. And it goes right back to the word love. So, some people are different, but, in a normal reality world, everybody wants the same thing. It's just you have to accommodate. You have to adjust. And the hardest thing is the give and take. You may not give, as much as what they are, but you got to at least try, because, it doesn't matter who does what better or who gives the most or who works the most. It all comes down to whether you love each other full-heartedly. That's it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think one of the craziest things you have to come to grips with when in your marriage is all the stuff about your wife that just drives you nuts. Like, just don't, like your mom said, like, just don't argue, just be happy. Like, just let it go. And I think that sounds so simple, but it is difficult. And I guess I had to learn that the hard way, bro.
Yeah, it's hard, but you know what? The good thing is that your marriage is still intact, and you got a good home, it sounds like, and I give you props for that, because there's a lot of people like me, unfortunately, who haven't been that lucky. But what can you tell people that are going through tough times in their relationships, that need to see your videos, because you may not be a therapist, but you might as well be and charge good money for it, because your information's good.
Maybe someday. No, I really so let me just share something. So I run into this a lot. There's a lot of guys out there, and I've really only seen it on social media, but there's a lot of guys out there that, and you're mad cool, dude. I mean, you're awesome. But there's a lot of guys that are bitter because they went through a divorce and they just like hate women now. And they throw all these ideas out there about how all women are and all women are evil and they want your money and all this kind of stuff. I would say, like, if you're struggling in your marriage, like, that is like the devil's way of getting in your head and just messing everything up. Don't listen to that, because everybody's different. And I would say most of the time, like, unless you're Tiger Woods or you're like a billionaire or something, like, when you meet a girl and they like you, they're not always after your money. And the problem is when we work, like you said, you want to provide everything, for your family. That's how I was. But if all you care about is your money and your job, your wife's going to start to follow along with that after a while, I think. Like, if all you care about is money and this and that and all these fancy things, it's going to kind of teach her that. And the thing is, I believe, and you kind of said it when you were talking there, I believe that when we first meet each other, like when we get in a relationship in the beginning, we like each other for who we are. We don't, it's not about the person's money usually. It's not about, I learned something in my marriage that my wife really loves me, and I didn't get it at first. And now that you're talking about this, so I had nothing to offer her, but she liked me when we first met. I mean, I had less than nothing, dude. But the thing is, I, stopped with the bad friends and, partying and stuff. And she sort of was good with that. That was a good choice. But like, I got into the martial arts. I worked my butt off to get like a black belt in karate. I have a Tang Soo Do black belt. So I worked 6 years for this. I never accomplished it. I quit high school. I had never accomplished anything in my whole life. I was super stoked to get my black belt. My wife was like, yeah, cool, whatever. I thought it was gonna make her like love me more, you know. Well, that wasn't good enough. So I ended up getting into boxing. I go do all these fights. I went to the Golden Gloves. I made it to the finals. I fought the national champion, and it was like, yeah, cool. And like, I do all these like things thinking that people are gonna like me more if I do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it never amounted to anything with anybody really. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, that there is what got me into the faith. It's not like I came to Jesus crawling drunk or something. Like, I came to God after I had come out of all of this bad stuff, changed my life, and thought that like accomplishing things like that was going to like make my life awesome. And I was like super depressed. I broke my knee. I snapped my knee the opposite way. I had a 6-month, I had like a cast on my leg, and it took like a whole year to recover. But it's like, I got into this boxing stuff. Then I got into kickboxing. I knocked 2 guys out in the ring, and I did like so good. I was supposed to fight the Pennsylvania kickboxing champion for my weight, doing balling with that. And my wife didn't really care. And none of my friends, except for the people I trained with, really cared about any of that. And it really bothered me that my life, I had these big plans for my life to do all this stuff like that. And, I felt this draw to go to church. And when I was going to church, I kind of like didn't know anything, wasn't really a Christian. I'm just showing up there. And
Mm-hmm.
there was just a time when I'm like, I need God. I need something real. I need something. And so I kind of just got really involved at church, started reading the Bible. I confessed Jesus this one day. I'm like, I'm doing this. I want to know if there's a heaven. I want to know about it because I have a daughter and I want to know if it's real. And I just went all in on that. And I believe that there is a God, and I believe that he saved my life through all these past experiences. And I believe my wife was a big centerpiece of it. I believe that. But the point of it is that a lot of us, like back to the advice piece of this, I think a lot of us put all of our eggs in one basket, into our job, into our like hobbies or something that we think people are going to think we're cool. And we try to fit in with all these other people thinking that this is going to make me a better person, or this is what somebody wants. And all of that stuff, being 40 years old now, 41, it's all not true. And all of the plans that I had for my life, I broke my neck in 2008, and I had a busted neck till about 2015. My neck was totally jacked up. I was still teaching martial arts, but I wasn't really training or anything like that. I was all messed up. But I was in like really bad pain. I had neurological issues. I couldn't see, and I had like headaches all the time. And what I'm getting at is that I'm doing like, I had this going this uphill, I'm thinking, in my life, doing all this martial arts stuff. I'm going to shows. I'm like, it was awesome. And I think my life's going that way. And I hurt myself, and God removes all this stuff from my life. Like, just totally, I was so depressed for years. I tried to commit suicide. I had all this depression because I couldn't teach. I couldn't fight anymore. Couldn't teach really. I'm like walking around. Anybody touch me? I'm like, don't touch me. I was like, just turn this big, fragile thing, you know? And the thing is, I realized after I got my life back, but my neck started to heal, years later, and my life started to come back together. And what I'm saying is that you really have to remove yourself and look at your life. That happened to me against my own will. And if you look at your whole life and what's going on in your marriage, what's going on in your job, you really got to get your priorities right. Spend time with your family. If you're working too much, don't do it, because like what happened to you, you make all this money and it's just gone. You know what I mean? Your whole family just gone because you're focusing on your job. It's a sick world, man. And we really, I went through a lot of pain and suffering, on top of, still having my wife. But I think, on top of that, you really got to have God's blessing, man. You can't allow like evil stuff into your house. A lot of guys are like addicted to pornography. They're addicted to like all these bad things, and they just allow all this evil in their life, and then they expect like godly results. And like, if you want to have the godly results, you got to do your best. I'm not even a religious dude. I'm like, just do my best to be a good person, and I believe in Jesus. But I'm saying, like, God has blessed me greatly with just a little bit of stuff that I've done. You know what I mean? So anyway.
No, it's good. It's good. We were talking about TikTok and all that. So what have you gained out of being on TikTok with all this? We talked prior to being on here about how you've been having crazy hits on your videos. What has that been like as well for you?
Well, the past 3 months have been just insane, because I went from like probably 60,000 followers to like 120. And, that is what it is. But see, for the past year, a little over a year, now I cut my prayer time down a little bit, but I've been on TikTok every single morning at 5 or 6 in the morning for like 3 hours praying with people I don't know. And I got to know some people, but I did that every day this whole past year. I'm at a place now where COVID's going away a little bit. I'm trying to get back into running a little bit. But anyway, all of those prayer people, it used to be like 10 of us, 15 of us. And now when I go live, it's like, it's crazy. And it's just like, it's a little overwhelming. But honestly, I'm sort of detaching from TikTok a little bit to just figure out. I'm like, God help me. It's like we unleashed the beast here.
Yeah, what monster did I create?
Well, basically, a lot of people come and they want to get maybe a little bit of advice and stuff. And I'm not really a marriage counselor. Like, I'll pray for you. I'll tell you what I think. I have a pretty heavy biblical view of marriage and stuff like that. Some people can't really process that because they don't understand. But the awesome thing about it is I have helped many, many people. I've had a lot of people reach out to me that I prayed with them through their marriage, and I've literally seen God move and fix marriages. I've seen marriages fall apart too, but some of these people are in really bad situations. But I actually, let me show you something. So this is a box of, these are all prayer lists from, now this ain't even half of them because I got more, but these are all people that I prayed for, hundreds, thousands of people that I prayed for this. And all I can say is God's blessed my channel with just answering prayers here and there, and just giving me a place to grow as a Christian and grow as a man of God. And I don't know it all, dude. Like, I'm learning some stuff, and I'm at this place now where God wants me to detach a little bit and learn some more stuff, because I really do get bombarded with people just in need, and I feel like the need is great for stuff like that. But that there has really helped my prayer life. It's really helped my walk with God. And the crazy thing, I haven't been to church in over a year. I haven't been to church really at all since I've been doing this. But I've been reading on my own, praying on my own. But my faith has grown tremendously. And like, being able to be there for people means a lot to me. There's a gentleman that reached out to me a while ago named Kevin, who I spoke to on the phone. We got kind of close, prayed with him. His wife had served in papers. They were about to get divorced. And we prayed. She moved out of the house, moved in with her parents. And then she came back. And then she tore the divorce papers up. And they're good now. It's been like 6 months. They're still good. There's another awesome gentleman that I was talking to named Jacob. Same situation. His wife had lawyer. They both had a lawyer. She moved out. You know, he just started praying about it, talking to her, being nice to her and everything. She moved back in. Now they're back together. They're working on it. Still a little bit rocky, I think, but they're working on it. And when I see things like that happen, it gets me really excited to keep doing this. Like, I don't get really, like, I have a creator channel, so I get like a little bit of money, but I'm just doing this for other people, I guess, and for myself in my prayer life, you know.
Well, the whole thing with my podcast is it's a way for people to come together and be a community and talk about issues and tough subjects about life. And the whole thing that got me started on it is when I was going through my last divorce, I felt alone. And the best medicine that I had was talking about it on my podcast. And it's more than just talking. It's planting that seed, as what Christian churches call it. You know, when you plant that seed, you're allowing other people to grow with you. And that's the biggest thing that I found through my podcast is, you know, I didn't expect the response to be, hey, I heard you talk about this. I can relate. I've been in an abusive relationship. I've been depressed. I've been through this and that. And it has helped people. I helped a person that was struggling with an addiction to alcohol and was also doing drugs, was not in a very good place. And I told him, hey, you know, you should listen to some of the things I've done. And next thing you know, they went to rehab. They got out of rehab. They contacted me and thanked me and said they read a Bible, and now they're going to a Bible study and going to church, and their whole life has been transformed. And like you said, once you start hearing these stories, it's like, wow, I had a part in that. But, you know, I myself, just like you, I'm not doing it for a pat on the back. You know, I'm doing it because, you know, the story of the Good Samaritan. You know, there's so many people out there that see people hurting and they don't want to get involved, so they take the easy way and go around. There's not enough people that are willing to help someone up and say, hey, I've been there. If there's something I can do for you, I'm here. That's all it takes. And people think that it takes way more. And it's like they say, the little bitty things make the biggest of differences in someone's life. And just like yours, you were on that borderline of your life and taking it away, you know, and when you're in that moment, you're not thinking how it's going to affect the people around you, your family, your kids, all that, because you're too busy going crazy, and you just need that motivation sometimes, or hearing that other voice to say, hey, it's going to be okay. There's more to life. You know, you can pull through it. You just have to believe in yourself. And you're proof right there that when you take God into your life and you say, hey, this is what I can lay on the table. God, this is my problems. I'm going to leave it there. Whatever you want to do, let's go. And I had to do that. And for 4 years now, I've gone to church way more than I ever have. And I grew up in a Christian faith family. I go to Bible studies more. I see a doctor to keep on medication to keep me from losing my mind. You know, there's things that you have to do, even though your mind tells you and fights you, saying, you know, you don't need this. But that's the devil. That's the devil saying you don't need it. And you have to knock it out of the way, give it the elbow, the other type of elbow, not the elbow that we're doing right now, but the nudge it off and say, no, I need this help. I like the life that I have. And for you, you're saying, I like the wife that I have. I don't want to lose this. And the family that I've created, I don't want to lose that, because once you do lose that, you know, number one, this is what people don't think about. You know, obviously, you know how it's going to affect your life because that's what we hear, the stories, and you've seen what divorce can do. But you don't know what that's going to do to your kids. You don't know what that's going to do moving forward for them, how they're going to view relationships. Unfortunately, my 16-year-old told me a few years ago that she didn't want to be in a relationship because she saw what I went through. And she can't trust relationships because I screwed up so many relationships. And hearing that from your own child, it's kind of like getting kicked in the gut. And it brings a whole different outlook on relationships and marriage and how things should be in your life. Because when your kids start to see the mistakes that you've made, then it starts hitting you, okay, I got to really kick this into a whole different gear.
Yeah, bro, that's deep.
It is.
My kids saying stuff to me, man, you know, like, I mean, crazy, man. This one time, me and my wife were arguing so bad, and I thought she was trying to hit me with the hair dryer, and I just like snatched it out of her hand. I took it in the bathroom, and I went, and I crushed the thing like a potato chip in the sink. It just like crushed it in a bunch of pieces, and my daughter freaked on me. And I remember, like, when your kids say something like that, I mean, we already know, but then when your kid says it, it hurts a little bit. You know what I mean?
It's as if you see your own self pull out of your own body and you see your own reaction and you're like, crap.
Like, you know, I get it, man. And it's so hard. And like, you know, I wanted to say one thing real quick. So I just want you to know, like, I have to take medicine. I've been taking medicine for like ever. And my medicine that I take now, supposedly I'm barely in the therapeutic range. But when I first started taking this medicine that I'm on, it was so strong. I literally, like, before I'd like pass out. I would see like shadows and ghosts in the room if it was like a dim room. And so I'm on some pretty strong medicine. But the thing is when I first got diagnosed with my problem here, I was so proud that I couldn't accept the medicine. Like I fought tooth and nail for 2-3 years. I'm like, I'm not taking that. And because it's like this, nothing wrong with me. And it took a lot of hell until I'm like, all right, okay. And it took years and years after for me to be accepting of it and have my confidence back and not feel like less of a person because of my medicine. And my pastor told me something super important. He's like, look, dude, he's like, you don't have a mental problem. He's like, you have a physical ailment. It's a chemical imbalance that you need to take medicine for that manifests itself as a mental thing. They call it a mental illness, but he's like, there's nothing wrong with your brain. And him saying that to me is just a small thing. But man, that really changed the way I think, because I used to get so hung up on the pharmaceutical companies are trying to cause a bunch of zombies or whatever. I used to get hung up on that stuff for years. But until I finally said, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to do the right thing by my wife. I'm going to do the right thing by my kids and just take my medicine and go through all this treatment and crap and just go with it. And it wasn't until I went and took responsibility for that. Even though we get struck with these things, it's not our choice. We didn't choose to be like having anxiety and stuff. You know what I mean? But it's going on and we got to do something about it. So it took me years, dude, of all kinds of hospital visits and stuff until I finally was like, okay. And I haven't been hospitalized in almost 10 years. But the thing is my wife is still so shell shocked that if I even act up, like if I would drink an energy drink and come home and be like, hey, what's up? And be all like hyper, she would think like she would be scared that I could go in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? So the point of it is that, like, for anybody listening, that if you have some sort of like issue, just deal with it. Just get over that hill, get over that mountain. I wish I would have started treatment right away, but nobody sat down and told me, hey man, everything's going to be okay. Just do this. Mm-hmm. It was just like, hey man, there's something wrong with you. You need to take this medicine for the rest of your life. And then I'm moving all around with my parents. Nobody's talking to me. And I'm like, it sucked, man. And like I said, I had a drug problem really bad, and luckily I'm alive. But I mean, the thing is, you can't be afraid to do the right thing. You can't be afraid to do treatment. You can't think that, the government trying to control your mind because of something like that. A lot of people get hung up on that, especially some Christian people. They're like, oh, well, God's going to heal me. Maybe God's telling you to take some medicine, because he told me to take some medicine and I listened, and now my life's better. So, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. As I was that way as a kid. My parents were like, you need to take your meds because it's going to help you. And being a kid, you don't know any better. You're like, yeah, right. I ain't going to take it. And I refused. And then 4 years ago, I was like, you know what? I need to stay on it. Otherwise, my life is just going to continue. And on the podcast, I call it it's the rotation effect, like a carousel. Your life is going to go the same way over and over again, and you're going to keep dropping the ball. Yep. And so you have to take those steps. But hey, we're over the 30-minute time I was going to do with you, but I got to tell you what, man, it's been awesome talking with you and hearing your story and your life and your marriage. It's so cool that that's what's going on, and you found TikTok as a way to kind of share your advice and your story to other people, and it seems to be hitting a lot of people in a good way if you're getting numbers like that. So I give you props. And
bro, I enjoyed it.
And continue the good work with your faith, man, because that's the best medicine is God in your life. And like I said, I grew up my dad was a Lutheran school teacher for 40 some years, and I grew up in the faith, and I wanted to be a pastor growing up. And then, once you get out of high school and you become an adult and you start a family early, you kind of lose focus. I'll skip church, this Sunday. I'll go next. And then it's like, oh, I know I missed last Sunday, but one more week ain't gonna hurt. And then it turns out to be 2 to 3 years, and then you're like, no wonder why I was having problems. I wasn't giving him my focus. And for those of you that are watching and you're like, well, I've tried the God thing and it doesn't work. Well, chances are you didn't give it long enough, because a lot of people have that perception that God is that type of person that is going to give it in a snap. And that's not how it is. Sometimes it takes years and years for you to find your place and get where you need to be. And, it's worth the wait, because once you find that path that God wants you to be on, there's no better path to be on. And that's clearly where you're at, and that's awesome. But where can people find you on social media? I know you're on Shawnee. What is that?
Shawnee _the_kid.
Okay, and that's on the TikTok.
I have Instagram, but I don't really use it yet. But, yeah, I wanted to say something real quick, Ken, if you don't mind. For anybody listening, God has used everything in my life. Like I was a mentor for 20 years at a martial arts school. I've mentored people of all ages, kids down to 2 years old, all the way up to adults, up to 50 some years old. But what God is doing with me on TikTok, I never expected it. I was making videos about martial arts and just random whatever. I made one video talking about marriage and it went like viral. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, I realized when I started talking about marriage and divorce and stuff like that, that this is the path that God's showing me, because God's showing me that everybody wants to live with the spiritual fruits of love, joy, self-control, and have that in their home. But everybody doesn't realize that God is the maker of those things. He gives us those things. And so it's important to stay focused on God, like you said, and keep on focusing, because God will grow those things into your family. Like the word disciple, it implies discipline. And it's like, we don't do it, God does it, but we have to follow along with him. We have some responsibility if we want that in our life. And so I just want to share that God is showing me that I can grow. I can use the spiritual fruits that have grown in my life to help other people. And that's how I was placed sort of in God's use on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
I think it's awesome because, I was trying to re-find you and I ended up finding you, but there's people that are using your video with them watching it, pointing at you going, yes. And it's amazing. And it's like, you hit the big time on social media when people are reposting your videos and going, this guy is speaking the truth. And I got to tell you, that's pretty cool, man. I haven't had that happen to me yet, but hopefully one day I will.
I give God the glory, but it is pretty cool. I ain't gonna
lie. You're probably going to be the new big personality in town.
Oh, great. I went to my gutter shop to buy gutter parts, and the girl at the desk like, I saw you on TikTok, and I'm like, oh boy.
That's awesome. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this interview and you want to check out his stuff, make sure you go to @Shawnee_the_kid, and that's on TikTok and as well as Instagram. But also, check out all the other videos that I have posted on my website at kentholstepodcast.com and as well as this YouTube channel. I'm so glad that I was able to talk to Sean. This was a great interview. In fact, Sean, you're my first interview with someone that I don't know. and I think it went really well. So thank you so much for your time. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to think and be positive. Do what you can today, not what you can't. And I believe in you. Don't you think you should too? And most importantly, we just celebrated the 4th of July. If you see someone who served our country, give them an elbow, give them a fist bump, tell them how much you appreciate them. You never know how much they might appreciate that one random act of kindness. So do it today. And until the next time we talk, be safe and God bless.